A panicked call claimed a grandchild was in trouble, then turned into a scam that moved cash within hours. The voice sounded urgent, sometimes even familiar, describing an accident, arrest, or medical emergency. The caller begged for help, asking for secrecy and immediate action. Another voice often joined, posing as a lawyer, police officer, or hospital staff to confirm the story. Victims were told to withdraw money quickly and avoid discussing it with anyone else. Some handed over cash through couriers. Others sent transfers, believing they were helping family. Across countries, these scams have taken millions by exploiting fear and trust. What felt like a family emergency was actually a system designed to turn panic into immediate financial loss. Across the late 2010s and early 2020s, these scams spread globally, targeting families in the United States, Europe, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. They were often run by organized call center networks using scripts designed to create urgency and emotional pressure. Victims were typically older individuals, contacted directly by phone during moments when verification was difficult. Callers used common scenarios, accidents, arrests, or medical emergencies, tailored to sound believable. In many cases, personal details were already known or guessed, making the story feel specific and real. The interaction was designed to move quickly, reducing the chance of checking with other family members. Reports from agencies like the OAIC and FTC showed thousands of cases following similar patterns. Losses ranged from a few $1,000s to tens of thousands per incident. By the time the call was received, the emotional setup had already placed the victim into a controlled situation. The call was structured to escalate quickly, starting with a distressed voice claiming to be a grandchild in trouble. Details were kept limited but urgent, enough to create panic without allowing time for verification. Victims were asked not to contact other family members, often told it could worsen the situation. A second caller frequently joined, posing as a lawyer, police officer, or hospital staff to validate the story. This added authority and structure, making the scenario feel official and real. Instructions were given clearly: withdraw cash, arrange payment, or prepare funds immediately. In some cases, code words or specific phrases were used to keep control and secrecy. The entire interaction was designed to keep the victim focused on solving the emergency. By the time instructions were complete, the victim believed they were acting to protect a loved one. Once the victim agreed to help, the scam moved into immediate action, focusing on how to deliver the money quickly. They were instructed to withdraw cash from banks, often in multiple transactions to avoid attention. In some cases, victims were told to lie to bank staff about the reason for withdrawal to prevent interference. Couriers were then arranged to collect the money directly from the victim's home. Other victims were guided to transfer funds through wire services or digital payment methods. The process was kept continuous, with callers staying on the phone to maintain pressure and control. Because the situation felt urgent, victims followed instructions without pause. Investigations later showed that these transactions often happened within hours of the initial call. By the end of this stage, the money had already been handed over or transferred, with no real emergency involved. As the interaction continued, scammers often introduced additional complications to extend the process. Victims were told more funds were needed for bail, legal fees, or medical treatment. Each request was framed as urgent and necessary to resolve the situation quickly. Follow-up calls reinforced the story, maintaining emotional pressure and preventing doubt. In some cases, multiple payments were requested over a short period of time. The communication remained controlled, with consistent updates about the supposed situation. Because the scenario felt real and evolving, victims believed each step was part of helping their family. Reports showed that some individuals made repeated withdrawals within a single day. By this stage, the scam had moved beyond a single payment into a sustained extraction of funds. The realization usually came when victims finally contacted their family member and discovered no emergency had occurred. Some were alerted by bank staff who questioned unusual withdrawals or transactions. Others noticed inconsistencies in the story once the immediate pressure lifted. Attempts to reach the callers again often failed, with numbers no longer active. In many cases, victims replayed the conversation and recognized how quickly decisions had been made. Authorities such as the OAIC and the ACSC have issued warnings about these patterns. By the time the situation was confirmed, the money had already been collected or transferred. Recovery was often difficult due to the use of cash and rapid movement of funds. What initially felt like protecting a loved one revealed itself as a coordinated system exploiting fear and trust. The scam was typically uncovered after victims reported the incident to banks, local police, or national fraud agencies. Across countries, reports showed consistent patterns: emergency calls, impersonation of officials, and rapid cash movement. Agencies like the AFP, CRTC, and IC3 identified these as coordinated family emergency scams. Investigations revealed call center operations using scripts, voice modulation, and sometimes AI-generated voice cloning. Financial tracking showed that couriers and intermediaries were used to collect and move cash quickly. In some cases, organized networks were linked across regions, coordinating calls and collections in real time. Public advisories warned families to establish verification steps and avoid acting on urgent requests without confirmation. Despite these warnings, new variations continued to appear, adapting to different technologies and regions. What appeared to be isolated emergency calls was ultimately identified as a structured system designed to convert fear into immediate cash transfer. What made this scam effective was the emotional intensity. It created a situation where thinking was replaced by urgency. Victims were not making financial decisions, they were responding to what felt like a real family emergency. The system used familiar relationships, authority figures, and controlled communication to maintain pressure. Because the scenario felt personal, verification was delayed or avoided entirely. Investigations showed that the same structure was reused globally, with only the story and identities changing. This allowed the scam to scale across different regions while remaining highly convincing. The financial impact often came within hours, leaving little time to reverse actions. For many victims, the loss was tied not just to money, but to the emotional experience of being deceived. The pattern remains active today, evolving with new tools, but relying on the same core mechanism of turning fear into immediate financial loss.